Welcome Pisces, my name is Drew and this is the Indigo Void. I want to welcome you to your September 10th reading to the 16th. It is the day of Jupiter, your traditional ruler's sign. And I want to give praise to it today. So I'm going to do your reading today and starting this weekend and whatever, I'll be getting more of the signs out for the week at the same time. But for my first week on YouTube, I really wanted to say and express my gratitude to the planets on their planetary days with their signs. So I'll be doing a traditional color cross spread for the first reading. The second one will be a You Against the World spread, and also an Indigo Angel Oracle card for the end for the final guidance. I want to say thanks for being here, and I really appreciate you watching. Thank you. And I apologize for the sound. I ordered a mic, like I've been telling all the signs. What I'm letting you guys know is that I have ordered a microphone, but I am dealing with the California fires, and it's not typical for the post office to be sending things on time these days. I'm experiencing a lot of delays with a lot of things I've ordered. So please bear with me. Alright. At the center of your reading, we can see the Eight of Cups, crossed by the Six of Swords. Above you is the King of Swords, below you is the Seven of Wands, the recent past is the Eight of Wands, and we can see in the near future it is the Three of Swords. The advice is the Hermit, how others see you is Judgment, your hopes and fears is the Five of Pentacles, with the outcome being the Knight of Pentacles. I typically don't use clarifiers for the general spreads, so we'll get going. And with the Eight of Cups and the Six of Swords, it's ultimately, having the strength and courage to walk away from an emotional situation that was heavily invested in. I mean, to build Eight of Cups into something just to see it fall flat, ultimately can be for the best, even if it doesn't seem like it at the time. It being the current energy at the center of the reading is the most important card. And I can see that it's tough. Nobody looks happy after wasting their time, and especially when it's emotional investment. To have the courage to build something emotionally and be invested into it is tough on its own. I mean, it's like one of the hardest things to constantly, bring up, and ultimately it's like, it puts a dam in our emotional river, and we don't feel like we're flowing. And sometimes it's the most hardest part is realizing we've gone far enough, and we could have passed the dead end sign or the red flags, the warning signs, ages ago, miles back, mental miles back, and to have to deal with the card crossing at the Six of Swords, just knowing that even if you don't feel it right now, even if you're stuck in your mental prison in your head, you're dealing with, reoccurring thoughts or negative thought forms that are manifesting, it just seems to be everything adding up to it, you could just stub your toe. It's just letting you know that you've made the right choice and you're heading towards a better direction mentally. And mental health is actually the most important thing when it comes to being able to express your emotions healthily. So just know that having to walk away from something that's toxic or, just isn't worth your time. And sometimes you might not feel like it's justified. It's almost like a tower situation where, sometimes the universe, just makes either people, places, things, or sometimes, situations act out against us where if we don't have the consciousness to end them, they're ended for us. And we can also sometimes question faith. How can this be happening to me? I've done this, and this right. And sometimes, just life isn't fair. But also, too, it's being fair at the circumstance of telling you, you'll understand this later on. You're going to survive this and become stronger for it. And you're worthy of more. You could be investing in something that just wasn't going to get you back what you're worth. And the Six of Swords is here to tell you that you're heading from, this mental turmoil to being into a better place. Realizing this is coming to the realization of, if you don't understand why you had to walk away from what you're experiencing, it's telling you it'll soon be made clear. And the more that you're able to understand this in the future and accept that these things happen and go, especially if you're a younger person, it can be extremely, important to realize that it's all part of growing up. And if you're older, it could say again, I've been through this multiple times, this ebb and flow, this constant battle of success, that wheel of fortune of feeling up and down and being tumbled in the washing and drying machine of life and saying that, it chewed me up and spit me out. How many times do I have to go through this? And a lot of times because, these ups and downs are ultimately the keys to building wisdom. Like your success is going from failure to failure, with grace and learning to go with it. And sometimes it's just best to go with the flow. And that's exactly what the Six of Swords are saying, is that as soon as you, allow your brain to sort things out and get out of your own way and keep the faith, it'll calm down and things will sort out, and you'll recognize why you walked away if you don't understand it already. And this King of Swords above you is just saying, it's just cold hard facts. At the end of the day, being real about a situation, the truth is not, it's not toxic, it's not depression, it's not painful. The truth is a relief to the pain. living a lie is so much worse than having to hear the truth, even if something that you don't want to hear, something you don't want to experience. And having to be real with yourself, especially. We want to paint ourselves as these perfect beings, but sometimes identifying that even if we are squeaky clean, we're not responsible for the situation we're feeling consciously. It's ultimately, it could be nothing out of the ordinary to deal with you. And if you think that why should I be responsible to the situations around me, because you have no control over them. And it's ultimately saying is that sometimes it's important for you to realize that just because you're responsible, or you're having to face the facts and you're able to identify things inside yourself, especially being a Pisces, that you really don't want to, facts aren't really the strong suit. I have Pisces in my second house. You know what I mean? It's just my values are more in a dreamlike state where I have fantasies, and I want to imagine my self-worth comes from this fantasy reality where I don't really want to look at facts. I hold things of value that are more of a subliminal nature, that are more grandiose and less based in reality, and so it can be very nerve-wracking to hear somebody say, okay, here's the facts. Sometimes hearing somebody say something you don't want to hear, or maybe they just don't like the qualities that you possess, or the qualities somebody else possessed, or whatever, just don't work things out. And putting high hopes and investing in people to play roles in our lives, or situations in our lives to play out that it just can't do, that's a hard thing to face. And the Seven of Wands, we can still feel I can almost see that you're drastically trying to make effort into make this work. The Seven of Wands to me is too many cooks in the kitchen trying to make something that's one ingredient. Trying to boil water, but having 7 people try to do it at the same time, all trying to find a pivotal role on how to make it better. One person is trying to turn on the gas of the stove and lighting it. The person's getting the water, and it seems organized. We have 4 people in here trying to do the same job, and that can be nerve-wracking. You think that you can fix a situation with more answers, with more action. Let it go. And that's actually the poison right here. I can see is just the fact is, the King of Swords is telling you is that it's time to stop putting effort into a situation. You just can't rebuild this stuff. So stop putting effort and time into it, but also use that same energy of the Seven of Wands to take action towards something else. Learn a hobby, invest in your time in something, learning a new skill, place value on something that you can control. Increase your self-worth. Find a way to distract yourself from whatever you're facing, whatever you had to walk away from. Use that same emotional investment that you had building 8 of Cups and put action to something else. It's almost like saying, really just find a way to take all this energy, whether it's out of, you might be pent up, it's be something like, just saying, go work out, get this energy out, whatever you can. Take actions on that are something that is healthy and beneficial that you can see around you. And I would even say go as far as, cleaning your environment. If you feel upset or depressed that you're walking away and you have nothing around you, there's nothing more refreshing than, cleaning your entire house, top to bottom, just everything. Get every little nook and cranny, because at the end of the day, at least you'll have a clean house and a clean environment around you. Even your car, if you just have a car, if you have nothing like that, something of value to yourself. Polish it up, place value onto it, like yourself. It's just a healthy mental attitude to keep. Enjoy being able to have somewhat of control over a situation, and just channel those actions, channel that passion. With the recent past, we can see the 8 of Wands here just being, quite a bit of action coming towards you all at one time. You could have dealt with a situation where it just came at you quick, and maybe you would have reacted hastily in a situation where you want to solve a problem or have to face a fact. This is almost like, acting quickly. It could be with some, with a situation where you had maybe time to analyze a problem or a situation, or something that was a matter of, that is available for a limited amount of time to deal with. Or, how could I say this? I would say that the 8 of Wands to me is just, it's rushing action. Ultimately, it's not always a bad thing, but sometimes we want to strike when the iron is hot. But also, too, it could be that something came towards you so quickly and abruptly where it just happened out of the fact. This could be, one day you're on top of the world, the next you're at the bottom, and just everything at once just comes in here and wipes you out. And that can be, very disturbing, especially with happening so quickly. And I can see here in the near future the 3 of Swords. And, the 3 of Swords typically, people would assume that's one of the worst cards to get in the deck. To me, and this one we can see in this card is that it's, the female and male, the conscious mind and subconscious mind, piercing the heart. And what to me is, it's relieving yourself of the poison, the toxicity, and it can hurt. It's like popping something that's just like pus filled and just has a lot of toxicity within it, it doesn't feel good, but it'll feel good eventually. Just the pressure of doing it, especially if you had like a real bad, zit anywhere on your body, it really hurts to, put pressure on it and even touch it. And people around you are saying, like the more you touch it, the more worse it's gonna be. And in this situation, it does really hurt to, let the healing process begin. But ultimately, I would say is that the Three of Swords is not a bad card. Having relief and finding, dealing with the final bits of pain of a situation, especially when it comes to the matters of your thought process. Facing the truth, it may not always be easy. It could hurt. It could really be nerve-wracking. To be very sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel, out of anger. But with the Seven of Wands here, just saying, take this action. It'll make it's almost like an antidote to the pain of the Three of Swords. Just find a way to channel this energy, this heartbreak, this relieving of the poison. This pain will subside if you just find a way to channel this experience into, really invest in yourself. But ultimately realize the Six of Swords here is letting you know that it's all part of the process, and there's plenty of things to look forward to. You will find relief and calmness mentally soon. So if you're in a mental prison of your own making right now, or if you're dealing with a tough situation where you're having a lot of communication that's toxic or hurtful, and you're facing a lot of cold hard facts that you don't want to hear, just know that it's all part of the process, and the best thing you can do right now is really just find a way to distract yourself through action. Something that you can see at the end of the day that has, results that you can look at and feel proud of. Be optimistic here. The advice of the Hermit card. So we can see here is that it's all about being comfortable with oneself and ultimately learning from your own experiences. Ultimately, when I see things like this in a modern sense, it's almost like people want to go straight to the internet, and it can be a bad thing at times to like see other people seem like the image they want to portray is of one of success. And also too, it could be looking upon, it's almost like being alone and driving down the street, and everybody in the cars next to you can see on the street is holding hands, laughing and joking. There are families that are happily listening to music next to you, and you're just by yourself in your car, and you're miserable, and you're experiencing these mental thoughts that are so negative and hurtful, and you're going through a process, and you could have lost a friend, a relationship, an opportunity, or just experienced a negative situation that's just driving you nuts mentally. And the Hermit here is saying, learn to become comfortable with oneself, but also learn the wisdom of your experience of being by yourself. Just know when you're the Hermit, sure, it sucks to be alone, but the ultimate lesson here is to be comfortable being alone, because the more you learn from the Hermit of his being alone is that he's responsible for his own actions, and therefore if he feels in pain by himself, he's responsible for that pain. And there's a lot of things you can learn from the stillness and quiet of enjoying your own self, because the Hermit, he's so used to being alone that he actually benefits the most from himself, because he really enjoys his alone time. And it's actually easier to manage. I mean, sometimes you might deal with a person that constantly uses like a phrase, or brings up politics or negative circumstances or negative things you just don't want to talk about. And it's strange, as soon as out of the picture or whatever, you're having all this mental shock of expecting a situation, and it seems so foreign, not to have that person around at first, and then you realize, okay, I haven't heard this conversation or this word, this negative word or negative situation that they were responsible for since they've been gone. And it's almost like the sense of peace comes to you, knowing that wow, it's just when we're around myself, I actually feel relief from a situation I was dealing with. And I can really acknowledge the Hermit's wisdom here, because the Eight of Cups is saying, don't be afraid to walk away. Sorry, my phone was letting me know I'm low on battery. Okay, so the next card we have here is how people are seeing you as Judgment, and they're watching your rebirth. They're watching you be, held responsible for your actions and your role in the situation here. And ultimately, it's nice to know that it's like having an extra life in a video game. It's really nice to know that, just because if Mario takes the mushroom and he's extra big and he gets hit, he goes smaller, but he still exists. And even if you die, you still have an extra life to go upon. And so just know that Judgment is there to get your back, and people around you can see you rebuild yourself. They're watching you experience this Six of Swords energy come through, and all of a sudden, you walk away, you have a huge experience where you're just feeling emotionally drained, and you feel upset about having to walk away of something that you invest into. But it's saying here with the Judgment card, it's saying, wow, people recognize you through your actions, that you're actually capable of, taking that loss and turning it into a win. And it's inspiring. A lot of people will go through a similar situation as yourself here, and they might handle it differently, but they can actually handle it better based on watching you go through it. And that does suck. It does suck to be the one that has to be the test dummy to watch other people avoid a pitfall. But if you're going to fall into a pitfall, there's ways to capitalize on the lesson and help those around you, you know, avoid the lesson. Some of those people, they can't avoid it because they're not willing to listen. But those that are watching you, people around you, can see you handling this with grace, and they see you become, you know, reborn. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that, of, like, you know, having to have a part of us die, a phase of our life die, or a situation in our life that we cared about a lot die. But it's important to know that it's not the end. There's plenty of times where we think that this is it, this is where it ends, and it doesn't. We keep going longer than we ever thought we would. And then your hopes and fears section is the Five of Pentacles here. And so I can see that you're definitely, you know, typically I like to rely on the hopes, but I can see this is more of like, you wonder if, like, you know, abandoning what you've established and, you know, what you're known for, you know, and walking away from whatever, especially if you have to walk away from something you had a lot of pride into. You wonder if the people around you will see it, will wonder if that was really you at all, if you were just living a lie or a situation you were uncomfortable with, and you're wondering if, you know, how long you invest. You could have boasted about a person, a situation, made a job situation better than it was, or a persona, or something that people can see around you, a part of your, you know, physical reality that people identify you with. You know, you're afraid that if you leave that behind or whatever, will you still be recognized? You know, would I still have that pride? Would I still have, like, that recognition? Would I still have be known for this, even if I don't believe it anymore, or if it's just gone too far and I was forced to leave it, or it left me? You know, it's almost, I picture, like, you know, Eddie Brock and Venom, if you're familiar with Spider-Man. You know, Eddie Brock invested with himself, but he dealt with a lot of hardship, and when Venom came along, it gave him this power and this persona. But ultimately it took him too far and made him too much of a monster, to the point where when he separated with it, whatever, sure, he missed it, and it was part of his identity, and he never forgot the benefits of it. But ultimately, when he separated from it, he found his humanity, and he settled for to be a villain and became an anti-hero. And I'm not saying that, you know, that's all good and good to be an anti-hero where you still kill, you know, people, even if it's in the name of good. But what I'm saying here is that, with the same similar story to Eddie Brock and Venom here, is that realize that you are not, you know, the physical things in your life. You are not what you invest in at times. You know, it's okay to find new information and change persona and change reality and start over. You know, the world is not going to judge you for changing your mental attitude, or what you invest in, or what you do for work, or what you do with your time, or what you know, manifest. You know, understand you can go from being the person that advocated veganism up to the extreme, and then one day to say, you know what, I just decided to end veganism and, you know, become a carnivore. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't be afraid to walk away and find that you can use those qualities that you invested in and built up, you know, something very important to yourself in another situation. And so don't be afraid to show the people that you're walking away from something, and that you're not, you know, you are more than that identity. And we can see here in the outcome is the Knight of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles, to me, is definitely, you know, the best card in the deck, just because we may not always get the rewards right away, especially things that come to manifest in our lives, because there's nothing worse than having to realize that, you know, if we thought everything that we wanted right now, or thought every situation, it just became real, you know, at the tip of your head, all of a sudden, boom, you know, I thought about coffee, and this coffee mug appeared right away. You know, that can obviously, you know, be devastating if we didn't have control over our mental thought process. So therefore, the Knight of Cups being so slow, and make sure that it takes the time to make sure this is what you're investing into that's important to yourself. You know, the process of achieving and manifesting something like that, sure, it can be sped up, and you know, it can be, there's like, you know, a speedy process and there's a slow process, but ultimately here it's making sure that whatever you're investing in, whatever, it's important to make sure that to take the time to really understand what you're investing into. You know, so after the Five of Pentacles, I would say here is that, you know, you can achieve something new. Just make sure you hold value into it. Really take the time to observe things. I would say here is that if you're dealing with a loss of any kind, before you jump into something that takes a lot of your energy and time, and you're going to take the energy that you invest in with the Eight of Cups into something, be cautious, and because otherwise you might invest that same energy, what you just had, and take that momentum and go into something that's not exactly thought out properly here. But with it being the outcome, I can see that, you know, you will be cautious, and it will take some time to recover, and that's healthy for you, because what you invest in next, you know, you'll be able to give it your best shot, because you won't be held down by previous thought processes through that Six of Swords that are negative, that will ultimately, just because it's a different theme, or a different person, or a different situation, you don't want to bring those same habits in there with you. Okay, so now we're going to do a you against the world spread. 3 cards for you and 3 cards for the world, and a mutual energy in the middle. Okay, so we can see here in the middle for you in the world is the Two of Cups energy. And so, I mean, if anything, this would be a different relationship between you and the world here. You know, finding love and passion within the world itself is very important. You know, to live life without having the love of life, whatever here, is torture. I mean, to think that life is hollow and nothing, and that you're just meant to be here to be like, you know, a doll where you have to any kind of emotional fulfillment. You're here to be another, you know, brick in the wall, another gear in the machine, is not living. So understand the world just wants you to find emotional fulfillment, you know, a love for life in general. You know, being on this existence, whatever, should have some emotional peaks. And being mutually respected and loved and loving to live life and loving life, expecting life to love you back for who you are is the goal here. And it's going to show you how to do that through your actions and the world's actions. So for the first card, we can see the Fool. And on the world side, we see the Magician. And it's awesome because the world is saying here is that allow a new opportunity, take the chance. You know, take the time to reset your button, you know, have a fresh start, you know, reinstall your Windows. You know what I'm saying? And I mean by that is the computer software. You know, just have a fresh start, zap your computer, and take away all those negative habits and thought forms, and have that new, refreshed energy to start over. Don't be afraid to be a blank piece of paper so you can write all over it. Stop erasing everything and trying to scribble over it. Just throw it all out and start over. Take that risk. You know, it's okay to make mistakes again because you still have that wisdom of previously handling before, but at the same time, you need that straight up, fresh start. Start at zero. And you can only go up from there, right? And the Magician here for the world is saying is that, you know, go from the Fool to understanding. You know, use those understanding of all your elements, your mind, your actions, your emotions. You know, what you're manifesting, what your goals are at the end of the day. You know, utilize these tools. Become understanding with all these, with all your elements here, and find a way to make them work for you. You know, ultimately, don't give up the faith that you are capable of manifesting through these means. But it all takes about a certain education and balance. Recognize yourself. And so what I'm mostly saying here is recognize your own patterns. You know, it's important to, you know, journal. It's important to, you know, write down your thought process. It's important to write down what you're acting, what your goals are, and so on and so forth. You know, what are you emotionally investing into? Take advantage and take time to realize the difference between the Fool and the Magician here is that the Fool leaves everything up to chance, whereas the Magician plans things out and finds an understanding of his own psyche. And we can see for the next card for you is the Star, whereas the world has the Queen of Swords. And once again, it's back to the Fool energy here. You know, I can see the Star letting you know that it's all about understanding that there is faith. You know, there is faith to be had because sometimes miracles happen without understanding. You know, the optimism of the Fool. Sometimes, you know, we might look at him as somebody that's about to jump off a cliff, but in reality, he could be jumping off into, you know, something more beautiful that we can imagine because we can't see it. And he's either not smart enough to think about the negative consequences, or he's so smart where he doesn't think about the negative consequences that he allows the miracles to happen for him because he's not manifesting negative thought forms. So it's understanding that we can see the stars letting you know is that don't be afraid to have dreams, because if you don't have the dreams, how can they manifest? You know, invest in those things. Realize that miracles are possible. What the world is also saying here with the Queen of Swords, which is the total opposite, is that, you know, ultimately it's investing in your own personal thoughts, having your own self-integrity, but as well as your own morals and your own, having high self-esteem for yourself internally is the most important name of the game. Really taking time to talk to yourself properly. Know that you have come from comfort, or you have come from confrontation, and if you allow people to tell you how you feel based on their thoughts about you, that is your own hell. That is why you will end up back where you started, and that's why you will not feel emotional development, emotional freedom. Talk to yourself like the lovers that you want to experience your life, like the people you want to experience in your life, the situations. Talk to yourself that way. Use that Queen of Swords energy, saying, I will not allow people's thoughts forms to come into my life and dictate how I think about myself. Ultimately, that you are the Queen of Swords is saying, stand back, I'm the one that rules this domain, because if anything, you have control over your mind, and the Queen of Swords is here to guard it for you. Recognize that you are allowed to have your own dreams, and don't let people destroy them. Keep people out of your mind. You know, talk to yourself with respect. You know, talk to yourself in a positive manner, and anybody that's around you trying to influence those thoughts negatively, cut them out. And finally, we can see right here the Seven of Wands with the Ten of Wands on the world side. And so with the Seven of Wands here, it's all about taking the advantage, you know, with the proper actions. You know, it's almost like, to me, it's like taking analyzing your goals and how to achieve them, and it's saying identify the most crucial skill first. So if you don't have a driver's license and you need to find a way to get around and access things easier, and you want to be reliable, and ultimately if it can solve all these other tasks on hand, to make them easier to deal with, it's saying learn how to drive. So that's just one example of many. But it's saying, like, ultimately if you want to start something, find the most crucial skill, and that's what you need to use to identify and solve the problems or make them easier to defeat the rest of the times. So it's like geez, at the top of my head, what can I think about? So yeah, I would just going back on a complete term, it would just be find the most valuable source of actions that you can commit to that will benefit you on solving all of their tasks and make them easier to achieve. So I would definitely say that this action right here is identifying. I would say this action for you would be write things down. Write down the pyramid section at the top of the pyramid is your end game for this section of your growth. Write down the goal and then write down all the tasks it takes to get there. Write down the processes that it's going to take. What kind of skills you need to invest in, how you're going to spend your time, what's the most important thing, what do I lack in the most, what am I good at in this situation, do I have the passion to finish this, do I really want, am I expecting benefits, am I lusting for results? These are all things that are super important that help you keep the advantage and keep this spark going because you're on top of it. And usually handling the most crucial skill and often the most difficult first makes everything easier and makes you give you this perspective that everything's manageable. So realize your energy is finite, so take advantage and find a way to make things work along with you instead of against you. Because the world is saying with the Ten of Wands is that do not be overburdened by taking on the whole thing at one time. Stop trying to solve every problem at once. Realize it takes one smart action right here and completing things smartly one at a time and utilizing skills that can benefit you to solve problems. Do not try to solve everything at once. Do not try to have a bunch of things that are half done, because ultimately those are things that are half finished and nothing to show for and will drain you having to complete those things. Take one thing at a time, and the one thing that's most difficult or most valuable to helping you complete the rest of your goals. That is the key to finding emotional fulfillment within this world, so you will enjoy life. You will feel that romantic connection to waking up every day and feeling satisfaction and security going to bed every night. And now we're going to do one of your Indigo Angel Oracle cards. Ooh, it's hot here today. Okay. You got compassion. Sure you can see the card. Compassion. The answer to your question involves treating those around you in the same way you wish to be treated. This card reminds you that how you act affects everything and everyone in your life. This is a time to show the higher part of yourself. You can easily detach and see the big picture in each situation. To move forward, you must exude higher energy because you give out what you receive. So check in with yourself and take an inventory to ensure that you are treating others with fairness and compassion. I want to say thank you, Pisces, so much for joining me. Once again, my name is Drew, and this is the Indigo Void. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.